So the goal of the structure is to make it easier for people to place the paper in context and actually know what's coming up, right? Our human brains actually aren't all that good at keeping track of a lot of information. So if I give you a high-level structure in which to latch onto, then as you read each piece of the paper, you sort of know why it's there and why you're reading about it. And in fact, one of the things I often tell my students is, I should be able to pick out any paragraph of your paper and say, why are you telling the reader this? And if you don't have a good reason for telling the reader that, it probably doesn't belong.
You want to make sure that the most important things come out first. There's no reason to hold back. There's no reason to build up into a crescendo. Most rhetorical study says, by and large, start off with your strongest evidence and your strongest point.
So we've emphasized making a clear thesis statement, and every paper needs that. But it's true that you don't just want to repeat the statement over and over again. It's great to nuance your statement, develop it, further modify it as you go along, without, however, springing something completely new in the last paragraph. You know, that's the excess in the other direction.
What I find interesting about it, though, is that I taught in the freshman writing seminar, and I know about an introduction to a paper, the development of an argument, the introduction of a counter-argument, and then reaching a conclusion.
To me, signposting is to be able to make an argument in stages. And often an argument is complex enough, the point you want to make is complex enough, that there's more than one non-obvious thing you're trying to say, and some rely on others. And if that's the case, it can probably help to put the earlier stuff first, and it can really help for people to know where you're trying to go as you're introducing evidence. If they don't have a frame into which to insert each puzzle piece, they're going to get lost.
I think to some extent, writing in the sciences, we use a lot of jargon. It's sort of a necessity because we describe very precise elements. In a way, maybe we simplify everything else to sort of keep things organized.
As you work through the paper, any of the sections that are particularly long and have a complex structure embedded in them, you'll often give that roadmap at the beginning of the section. So I'm going to explain to you the architecture of my new system, and I'm going to do that by first showing you a high-level diagram that depicts the 4 major components of that system, and then I'll talk through each of those components in detail. And that's a sign that what you can expect is a set of 5 subsections that begins with overview, component A, component B, component C, and component D. And then finally, at the end, you need to conclude. You need to remind the reader what exactly you've done. You need to remind the reader how you've demonstrated that, in fact, you've accomplished what you set out to do, and potentially what the implications of what you've done are and what some avenues of future research are.
So it's a good idea, when you've done your draft, to regard the end as a possible beginning. Because after all, you wrote the paper in a way that you were thinking through things as you were writing. But readers generally don't want to know how you thought through things. They want to know what you think now.